people to do it for themselves.
So $50 million in rentals is, it's no small feat.
No.
So if I were to, come to you, it's like, hey, I want to start buying rentals. I want to build out this portfolio. What other steps involved in making that happen?
So what I learned early on was to get really creative. And this is like the biggest thing. And I think you'd probably agree with this. I think the biggest thing that agents don't, I mean, general public in general, they don't understand how money moves and breathes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They don't understand like interest rates and moving things around and what it looks like. And, we're playing chess, not checkers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Checkers is when you just go buy a house with a loan and 20% down. I'm like, well, I don't have 20% down. So how can I get creative? So I started looking and talking to the lenders and trying to figure out, so if I can buy a property at a deep discount and explain to the seller, like, you've got a 10% cost of sale, commissions, repairs, closing costs, and condition. If I can buy this deep enough and hold it with hard money for 6 to 12 months and let it season,
Mm-hmm.
and the market kind of helps out, obviously the market helped out over time, right? I can refinance using the equity as down payment.
Yeah.
So that's what we did over and over again. And it started to be one of those things where the more people I talk to, it's so insane to think that today, every conversation that I have when I'm with a real estate client, I'm like, so, hey, what do you invest in? What kind of rate of return do you have? And you ask them, they're like, well, I really don't know what my rate of return is in my 401k. Well, how much does the investment company charge you to manage it? I don't know. So they really don't know what the rates of return are.
Yeah.
So we started building it out to create money relationships with our clients. So over the last 7 years, the better I got with the conversation, we've raised $20 million in private capital.
Mm-hmm.
That's one house at a time, one investor at a time, showing them how to make money and how we can all win together. And that was probably the biggest thing. So we started with, I remember my first investor, I borrowed $110,000 from him. My hard money was negative $300 a month when I had that rental. This is a mindset thing, because people are like, I want cash flow. I'm like, well, cash flow comes with cash, right? You have to own it free and clear if you want the cash flow. So we did that, and it was negative $300 a month for 12 months. But when it refinanced, it was worth $180,000. I had zero money into that deal, and it cost me $3,600 to buy that $80,000 in equity.
Yeah.
And the tenant helped cover that. So we started doing it over and over again. And then we started realizing, well, wait, if we do these flips and we renovate them, then this is what we can capture, and we can pull some cash out. So we just started getting really, really creative with how we were going to do it. And that's what I'm trying to teach students is, like, you have to get over the mindset or the mental hump of using hard money to buy a rental property if you're buying it at a deep enough discount.
So if there's one regret I have in real estate, was that mental hump specifically.
Yeah.
So I remember November 2007, right? I get licensed in May of 2007. I go to the annual ASRA event, right? I don't know if you remember them, right?
Yep.
They're at the Coliseum, right? And like there's
I saw Michael Jordan play there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you have Active Funding Group. I think that was like the big one at that time.
Right.
And they're like 18% interest rate.
Oh my God, back then.
Right.
But the house was only $20,000.
I know, but like looking back, I was like, 18%. That's worse than my credit card. Why would anyone agree to that?
Right.
Right. Meanwhile, I got people coming in from Salt Lake, Canada, all over the country, flying into Phoenix, paying cash for these $50,000 homes that I'm showing as a realtor.
Yep.
Making
$1,500
commission
minus your splits.
before splits.
Right.
Right. So after splits was like, I don't know, $1,200.
Right.
If I would have just bought those properties at 18% interest, I would have been cash flowing right off the bat.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
18% on 50,000. That's like $700 a month.
Yep.
I would have been cash flowing right off the bat, and beginning my empire. But so, like I said, if there's one thing I would have changed, it would have been that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really been my advice to agents when they get into, and then when I do these private strategy sessions with people, is showing them, like, what's your dream life budget and how are we going to reverse engineer that to get there? And is it all going to be in real estate, or do you have it split up, so that they can start to mentally think about it and mentally be prepared? See, I've never gone out just to buy a property as an investor. It's always been prepared for the right opportunity. So either I have access to money or I have access to the right people, so that when that thing pops up, I can take advantage of it.
Right.
And most agents are solely looking at, it's the example I always use, and because being in the business together early on, you get that great deal that you're going to put on the market. And you know what we do? We go chase the buyer to make an extra $6,000 rather than go chasing the money to make
We
an
want to
extra
double end
60.
it.
Yeah.
If we can double end it, this is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a huge win. I'm like, you know how much money the investor that you just sold it to made?
Yeah.
Right?
Especially over the lifetime of that
Right.
asset or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So understanding money. So that's one of the things you focus on in teaching.
Yes.
I completely agree with you. Like, I think money is just one of those topics that realtors, probably more so than the general public, but in general, I think most people don't really have an understanding of money. And it's something I said before, like sales and marketing, right? I preach that. Sales and marketing. We're all in the sales and marketing business. I love sales and marketing, right? But once we figure out sales and marketing, that money skill is that other skill that not that many people have. And if you can figure out that skill, it is way more important than the sales and marketing skills.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that I teach on a regular basis, and it's a dripping faucet fills a bucket, right? So it's time that bucket will be filled up with little drips. And so many people are like, when I get here, I will do. When I do this, I will do. And then they never do it because the more money they make, the more their lifestyle increases because they never made the small habits of putting money in certain places. And it took me years to figure out, like, I need to do that differently. And I'm teaching my kids how to do it differently and making sure that the agents that I'm teaching now, like, guys, this is so important that you create this habit, right? And I'm sure you've read Profit First, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you look at how he breaks the business down in percentage so that it never changes. Every paycheck does the same thing. It's not, well, $100 here based on the check. It's based on percentages.
Right. And for that point, I would say, we had David Richter here, Profit First for real estate investors. Definitely go watch that episode and buy his book. So money is the first thing. What's the second thing to building up your portfolio?
So now it's the mindset, right? And so when I teach them, the easiest thing for an agent to do is buy a house for themselves, right? So interest rates low down payment, all the things. Having the mindset that I'm not going to be here forever, and I'm going to buy this, I'm going to keep it, and then I'm going to utilize the equity or refinance it, and I'm going to go move to the next one. If I would have done that at age 20 and stayed on that course, I actually wrote it down. And I said, one property a year for 20 years of my career. So I went through all the ups and downs in the market. And I'm like, I would definitely be fully retired right now had I just stayed that course. Because even right now, crazy thing, this morning I was talking to someone. I'm like, you know what drives me nuts? 6 months ago, you would run out and compete with 14 people and take on an extra $50,000 in debt and pay $50,000 over list price. And now all of a sudden the rates are a couple points higher. And you can buy stuff at a discount now, but you're so concerned about the stupid monthly payment that mentally you're not there.
Right.
You're not thinking about the money.
Yeah.
Right? So
You're focused more on the monthly versus the value of the home.
or the debt that you took.
Yeah.
Right? So right now you can buy something with $50,000 less debt and the payment's going to be an extra $4,000 a year.
So there's a guy, Jason, I want to say Rothman. I'm totally butchering it, but I heard him say this in a Zoom call. Jason Hartman is what it was.
Okay.
Jason Hartman. He was saying this on a Zoom call, and he was talking about how, like, we all understand real estate values the wrong way.
Okay.
We look at like comps and this and that, right? He's like, you guys got it all backwards. The value of the home is based entirely on what someone can afford monthly.
Yep.
He's like, the way that people buy cars and
Same
the way
thing.
people buy houses, exactly the same. It's like, no, like, it's for cars. People don't treat houses like they do cars. And, well,
Absolutely.
clearly.
You remember the 4 square box when you're buying a car?
Yeah.
Like they get you to focus on the payment and you get screwed everywhere else.
Yeah. So that's, so yes, to your point, you were saying this morning you're upset. Yeah, people make decisions based off of payments versus value.
But they also are making decisions, like a lot of people in the current market, they're like, no, I'm not going to buy anything right now because the rates are too high. Rather than going, you know what, I'm going to set my sights on something different and maybe I'll buy something that's less house, a less bedroom, so I can at least get into homeownership and start that process and knowing that the rate's not going to be the same forever.
Yeah.
But the value that I can buy in that house will be there for me down the road, and it's starting my investment journey.
All right.
Right? It's not going to be that way forever. So people give up, and People try to time the market perfect. Never works. Some people
Yeah.
get lucky.
We learned that in 2007. So, all right. So the mindset of I'm not going to be here forever. So that's the second thing.
Right.
Is there a third step here?
The third step is really understanding money, right? Understanding how to be creative with things, how to make things work,
Mm-hmm.
rather than doing the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman thing of like, got to pay your house off and you got to put 20% down. Well, I didn't have to put 20% down. I had to create the 20%.
Yeah.
And you can do it. And because we're in real estate, we see those opportunities. And it always kills me when I watch things. I'm like, especially, and I know you see this in your side, is, in the influencer world, and people are like, look at my $100,000 check that I just flipped. I'm like, cool, half of that goes to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
And you also probably paid 20 or 30 grand for real estate fees, closing costs, the other things. It's really not that much. But if I kept it as a rental property, or I did a 1031 exchange, or so understanding that is probably like the most critical thing. Because if you don't understand the numbers,
Yeah.
you make decisions based on that bottom line HUD, and that bottom line HUD still got to go out to IRS at the end of the day.
So